It is time to talk great food. Chef Plum is here to show us 3 techniques for steak, Irene.
Yeah, a lot of people find that intimidating. How you doing, Chef?
Hey, what's going on, friends? How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I am all right. We have sunshine now, but I tell you, I was thinking about the segment this week, and it hit me because all that terrible weather we were having, it was rainy, it was cold, and I really like steaks, Kara, as you know. Like, I want to have steak for breakfast. I want to have it for lunch. You know what I want for dessert? More steak.
I might draw the line at dessert, but it is intimidating because I've learned a lot from you. I know I learned how to make my Christmas tenderloin from you, but when you spend all this money, because steak can be expensive, you don't want to ruin it.
Absolutely not. And I wanted to show some techniques on how to cook a steak inside your house. So a couple of things I want to show you I've got right now. You can see from my overhead camera here. Oh, we're going to try a new camera. I'm going to move my overhead cam to the steak cam on the stove here. It's going to be fun. So I've got two nice New York strips right here, and you can see these are beautiful. They've got that little bit of fat. That's what you want on there. You want that extra little fat. That adds a lot of flavor. The key thing here when you're making these steaks is you want them to be nice and dry. So what I always do is I take a paper towel and put this here and wrap them up in that paper towel to make sure they're dry. The reason you want them dry is so they don't steam. If there's moisture on there, they will steam instead of sear, which is what we want. We want that nice crust on the outside. So I've got them dried off now. A couple things you can do. I like to take a little bit of salt, a nice kosher salt. So my first tip is use a good coarse salt so you can feel it in your hand and you can see it when it lands on the steak. You can see here, I'll hold it up to the camera. Look at this coverage I'm getting on that steak, right? You want to make sure you get a lot of salt on there.
Okay.
Steaks love salt. Next, if you want to do something like a rub, I've got some little rub here done with a little brown sugar and salt and a little chili powder. So I'm putting that on there too. But again, look how it's on there. And they call it a rub for a reason because they want you to rub it into the meat. So take that rub and rub it into the meat. I'll show you up closer so you can see what I'm talking about.
Why
Rubbing
brown
it into
sugar?
the meat like that. Well, brown sugar adds a lot of flavor. Meats and brown sugars are best friends. You want to add a little bit of sweetness to it because when you have the Maillard reaction happen, that's not caramelization. When the meats turn brown, that sweetness really counteracts it. So it's like balancing act. All great food has to be balanced out. So you always want to make sure you season both sides of it, which I've done here. Nicely seasoned on both sides. And then you want to let them rest for a little bit, okay? You want to let these meats sit with that seasoning on there for, I don't know, at minimum 30 minutes, right? You want to let that seasoning soak in because if you don't, what happens is, number one, you're cooking a cold steak. You want to make them at room temperature. That's my second tip. Always get your steaks at room temperature before you cook them. You want to make sure that that's the case because if it's cold, it's not going to cook evenly. So that steak is seasoned properly and it's come up to a room temperature or as close as you can get, 72 degrees roughly if you really want to be like technical about it. But keep it simple, don't overthink it, season it nicely and bring it up to temp. Now, I'm going to move my overhead camera right here, this guy, see? I'm going to move this over here to my steak cam. We're going to try steak cam for the first time. Let me put it up right here. Now, in my pan, can you guys see my pan there?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Steak cam works good. You want to use a nice oil that has a high smoke point. Smoke point means when the oil burns. So I've got some avocado and safflower oil here. I'm going to put in the pan and let that get nice and hot. I'm using a cast iron pan because they can hold their heat and cook the most even. If you don't have that, that's okay. You can also use a regular pan as well. But cast iron is probably the best. Then I'm going to add a couple little pieces of butter in there. To make that flavor really pop before we cook, I've got 2 cloves of garlic. And I'm going to add a little bit of fresh thyme. You don't have to do this, but it really helps season that stuff up nicely. So my other tip, make sure the pan's nice and hot and let it season up a little bit. You can see how that butter's melting in there, getting nice and seasoned. That pan, you want it super, super hot. If you think it's too hot, let it get a little hotter. That's what I would say to people, because some people are afraid of how hot their oven gets there. Like we were saying, people get a little scared of that. So now I'm going to take my steak, nice and hot pan, and I'm going to lay it away from my body like that. Lay it away from my body. If you lay it towards your body, it can splash that hot fat onto your body. And you don't want that. That's how you get burned. There we go. And now, as they're in that pan, I'm going to take this and just kind of start ladling some of that butter right on top of it, just like this. You can take a towel and kind of turn it if you need to. Here you go. Look at this. You start basting that steak with that butter. It really adds a lot of flavor to it and helps it cook a really even cook on all sides there. And when you get a great steak like this, don't overcook it. You don't want to go well done with this. You want to go medium well. You want to go medium rare, something like that. Kara, how do you like your steak cooked?
Well, I always say medium, but you always tell me I should take it out when the meat thermometer is medium rare because it keeps cooking.
Absolutely. If you want to use a thermometer on this, I would 100% take the steak out at about 120 degrees or so, or when you touch it, if you touch your hand right here between the finger and your thumb, this little piece of skin right here, when it feels like that, right, that's medium rare. If you touch that on your hand, and I know people are watching the show touching their hand right now, that's what you want it to feel like, that. That's how you know when it's done.
Yes, Irene and I are touching our hands.
See, I told you.
We're doing it.
And you can look and see that beautiful color we've got right there. That's what we want. And hey, listen, Irene, if you want to be a little bit more, if you move up about a half an inch to where you feel that muscle in your hand right there.
Yes.
That's medium.
All right.
Medium.
What if you like it well done?
Oh, if you like it well done, touch your arm here.
All right.
And the last tip of the steak before I get out of here with this, you guys, once they're done and ready to go, you really, really want these to rest, okay? You come back here to the main camera, I'll show you what I'm talking about. Well, you really, really want them to rest, because if you don't have them resting, what happens is, as they cook, the steak does this. It gets all tensed up like this, and all those juices get tense. If you cut it, juices go everywhere. Let it rest so they naturally redistribute and get nice and delicious in that steak.
Wow.
Steak tips at home. That's what I was trying to get done today, for sure.
Okay.
Great advice.
I love it. It's making me hungry.
Yeah, exactly.
Me too. I can't wait. I got 2 steaks to eat.
All right. And after a good steak, who doesn't want more sleep? We've got great deals to help you get your best rest.
I love it. And healthy and delicious. So we're showing you how your family can have both. We'll be right back.